Welcome to the SPL Rundown, your weekly look at the Smite Pro League. I'm your host, Apam, here with my wonderful guest analysts, Lermy Wormy, Frost, and today we have a special guest, Chuckles, the coach from PK, joins us. Stick around for my interview with the one and only Barracuda later on, but first, we're here to talk about the games from last week, and the first game that we're going to talk about, ironically enough, I guess maybe even not ironic enough, but is Ghost vs. PK. Chuck, what's going on in this set?
Oh boy. I mean, yeah, that was a rough one.
It was.
I mean,
my notes here say clinical by Ghost, and I remember I was watching the Hazer do his weekly commentary on the SPL, and he was really confused by the set pick that you guys went to both games. Can you talk about set a little bit?
I mean, set, it's kind of just, we think it's we've been trying it a bit, so we think it's a decent enough character.
Mm-hmm.
It obviously went through a fair bit of scrimming.
Sure.
Saw some success there, so I mean, sometimes things just don't work out.
Yeah.
In the actual when push comes to shove.
Lermy, Frost, any thoughts on Ghost vs. PK?
Wait a minute. Okay. I'm looking at the scores and stuff, but they're backwards. I was so confused.
They're all backwards in the client.
Oh, I see it. Yeah. Okay.
They're also all kind of messed up on the website too. So
yeah, that's what I'm looking at right now is the website, and I'm like, wait, this is not who had these picks, but this seems about right. I enjoy set into Cthulhu because I think that's like the scariest matchup for him. I've played, we both, Lermy and I, have done the whole get to diamond, and then you experience all kinds of matchups. What's good, what's not. Set's the only one I'm afraid of as Cthulhu because you have this habit of going up into the ultimate. You see him just kind of, ult coming through, goes underneath you. You hear a pit stop happening underneath you, and you die. You don't know what's going on, but Set, something magical is happening down there. And I figured something magical would happen here. I don't think he had the room he needed, though.
Yeah,
I don't think it was specifically for Cthulhu, but I don't think he had enough room to actually.
I like the idea.
Do what he wanted.
I like the character. It's just hard to get him off the ground, and I like the idea a lot with the Aphrodite to kind of, be that second life to kind of give him the ability to heal up in team fights and that extra second of life. But yeah, I mean. That's kind of just, you have to give and take with that. And, you did actually get the Cupid in game 2 to kind of cover up that area damage that you wouldn't be having with the Aphrodite. I don't know. Something just didn't get off the ground there. And, of course, giving Final K Cthulhu, that's kind of the meme, right? He just gets to do what he wants.
Sure. I know.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Frost.
Oh, Ghost it seems like they have a knack for the Cthulhu picks because I said before, it's not about just getting Cthulhu. A lot of people have picked Cthulhu, have lost on it. He's lost now as support and as solo.
Sure.
But the way that they draft, you got the Cthulhu, obviously. Wasn't too fond of the Cupid into the Cthulhu, but they drafted Rom later on. That's what you need, an ADC that can kind of stay safe or dive with you. Then you got a very aggressive support. You've got the Nemesis. You've got a Habois and or Merlin. They just seem to really know the type of team comps that you need to get that pick going.
I feel like the Nemesis is almost more of a takeaway pick because I feel like, Sam would have played whatever, right? But I feel like Nemesis in the Cthulhu is really good because not only are you just generally not really aware of what's going on, like you mentioned earlier, but taking away all those protections and you still kind of, I haven't ever personally remember off the top of my head, getting Nam ulted and then just getting blown up by it. But just thinking about the concept, you're sitting up there, you have to be hyper aware of what's going on to know that, oh yeah, that tiny thing on my debuff bar popped up and now I'm just probably dead in half a second.
Sure. Any final thoughts about Ghost vs. PK? I know it was a pretty quick set and we're not spending too much time talking about it, but any other things that you guys want to mention?
Yeah, I mean, on top of, anything about picks and bans, which I'm not really inclined to go too much into about how we think about stuff, but
Sure.
I mean, on top of that, we started out both games, I think, with Fred dying on wave 1, which is an incredibly rough situation, and also I'm pretty sure hasn't happened all year, even in scrims that I've seen. So it's a rough situation to be in, and I think that like sort of set the stage for both those games.
Sure. Any other thoughts from you guys?
Yeah, that's about it for me.
All right, moving on then to Radiance versus Obey. I think every week we see Obey, they start to look a little bit better, a little more consistent on things, but they're still not completely 100% there. What are your first thoughts on this set in particular?
I mean, I'm really glad to see Sino kind of moving in the right direction. I feel like, again, we're kind of going with the popular, fan base meme of, okay, Sino's finally on something meta. He's playing stuff like Nemesis. He's playing, I think he played Nemesis both times, actually.
I believe he did.
But I don't know, something just, I mean, we talked about picks and bans a lot, at least between, the earlier set, but I think that it is really important to kind of just think, there are lots of things open, right? And of course, being comfortable in a character is really, really important. It kind of is what makes or breaks certain things. And of course, Obey kind of do that, right? They play what they like to play. And it doesn't really matter beyond that, I feel like. But, they are kind of adjusting. If they had gone with something a little more meta, I feel like in the solo, or maybe ditch the soul. Like, I feel like them and Renegades are trying to make this soul work. And I just don't feel like it does. I feel like it's very close to being on the cusp, but I think that she's, definitely on the bottom of the, the magical ADCs or Hecate abusers or whatever you want to call them.
Sure. Frost, Chuck?
I'm not on board with the soul. Tell me more, though, Chuck. Why do you think she's favored so much?
I mean, she's just super safe, right? Like, there's very little. Like, when you think about, safe characters at like the competitive level, it's like there's Jingwei. There's, there's not that many safe mages, honestly. Like, Sol is probably one of the safest, just by virtue of slow immune, self Aegis, and then a CC immune ult. So like, I get what they're trying to go for, and like, there's merit to like, you can make pretty much any pick work, right? If you play around it correctly. But like, I don't know, some things just don't come together. I do like though that Obey's switching away from what was it? All those friggin' warrior solos that they've been trying to jam the past few weeks.
You mean warrior jungles?
Oh yeah, jungles. Yeah.
Why is everyone so mean to Sino?
Well, I mean, he did single-handedly like bring Nike in, and I think he sort of changed the jungle meta in Phase 1 when he first came in. So
yeah, for sure. Nike was sick. Nike was sick, but
Nike out too.
True.
After that, it was a little bit rough.
Yeah, I don't know. The Osiris jungles were not cutting it.
He's trying to do old Season 1 stuff. My goodness. Did he crack out the Nike though? Like, it was one of those. He cracked it out, but did he force everyone's hand? It had been a thing in Season like 6, but mostly in ranked. It would be Sino. It would be there was some prominent solo laner. I forgot what it was.
Well, I can't remember what it was at Worlds. Maybe like Season 4 or 5 in the jungle, right?
Oh man.
So
probably,
there is like a storied history of Nike in the jungle, so to speak.
Like, we'd known she was good, but she's so boring. No one actually ever wanted to play her. But now it's she's good enough to where we have to. And then Sunday came through, and now I'm satisfied.
All right. Any final thoughts about this set?
Yeah, I guess just talking about Bobby, I think he's been doing a lot better just in general. I like him a lot more on defensive picks. Like, of course, he's been trying to force his hand, I feel like, on this like Hercules and other really aggressive supports, but I think his playstyle is a lot more suited to things like Khepri. I think his Khepri game was significantly better in game number 2 than, we saw him play the Hercules in game number 1.
Sure.
I think that was more of a denial pick away from Radiance, because a lot of teams right now are super valuing Herc out of the pressure that he gives. So I think that's them just trying to pick something, take it away, and then it not really meshing with their playstyle that well.
All right. SSG versus Renegades. And I think we expected SSG to win this one 2-0. A lot of people, I think, put SSG in maybe the top 2 or 3 teams in the league so far in Phase 2. What are your guys' initial thoughts about this game? I have to bring up the Chang'e Game 1. Did you ever think we would see Chang'e back in the SPL? It's not DJ Pernicus isn't in here anymore, right?
Not in mid. Never in my life would I have thought that character would end up in mid in the SPL.
I think we've seen her in solo a couple games, right?
Mm-hmm.
Thoughts on the Chang'e?
See, now this might be a bit controversial, and it kind of goes along with the last match. Okay, trying to figure out how to not make it sound so... Top teams tend to experiment a bit more freely with the not top teams. Let's just go there. I don't know if this is something Dardez is feeling actually works, or if it's something he just cracked out because it happens to be Renegades. Kind of like something that surprised me in the Radiance and Obey set. They cracked out ISIS. I don't know if that's something BMT really wants to sit on, or if it's something he's just going, you know what, it's Obey. If it's going to work, it's going to work now.
Sure.
I'm not sold on it.
Yeah.
I'm not one of those that goes, oh, it worked in this match. I think with the context of, it was SSG against Renegades.
Sure.
I don't think they're sold on it either. I don't think we'll see it again.
Yeah. I don't think any team really rocks up to SPL and's like, I'm going to straight troll pick here.
Sure.
But I think the thought process behind, like a Chang'e is more one-dimensional. It's more like, oh, hey, maybe I pick Chang'e here. She has a 2. It's not like, I'll pick Chang'e here. She works, really well into all this stuff that we've scrimmed against, and we know she's good against all this. It's more, we need something safe here. Let's whip out this character.
I feel like Dardez, who's sort of known for bringing Anher into the mid lane, hasn't really been playing any Anher. Is Anher not one of these ADCs that feels good in the mid lane anymore?
It's sort of just a middling pick, I feel.
Sure.
A lot of the time. Like, most ADCs in mid, SSG would be the team to whip them out.
Yeah.
I think they did game 2, right? So
I believe they did.
They're Jin Cupid.
Yeah.
So, obviously, they do like their ADCs. I think Anher's, he's not great. He's not awful. I think if they wanted to play him, they would, but sometimes other things are just better in the moment.
Sure.
I think there's too much damage right now.
In the
Anher, just in general, Anher is a better tempo style, not too much damage, but what he lacks in damage, he makes up for and how much he has control over. Right now, it's just more get in each other's faces and blow you up.
Sure.
A lot of the meta picks right now are pretty good at just railing on her, so it's a little hard to just blind pick it.
Lermy, do you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I would tend to agree. He's definitely kind of like a flavor pick that you could do, but like Chuckles said, it's just you could pick it, but there's so many things that work really well against it right now that you probably should just pick something else, and it's, it'll work out.
Sure.
Especially because it seems every new character we keep getting has knock up, knock back immunities.
True.
It's almost personal at this point.
One thing I wanted to mention about this set is Nika looking great on the Amaterasu. Basically had 1 death the whole set. Do you guys think Nika is probably one of the best solo laners in the league, if not the best?
Yes, but not because of that game.
Sure.
Yeah. I definitely think solo laners skill wise, they're all just kind of fighting there. All have 1 foot in the could potentially be the best player.
Right.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think all of them are pretty good, except Ronnie. Ronnie's pretty shit.
They're buffing Achilles though. He could make a comeback.
Especially against Cthulhu, right? I feel like executes are just secretly OP against that character.
Last question about this game that I had was, it feels to me like RNG have a bunch of variety in their picks. Apart from the Cthulhu, I think every pick changed from game 1 to game 2. I feel like looking through some of their other sets, they're pretty comfortable with just like changing things on almost like a wholesale basis. What do you guys think about sort of the variety of picks that RNG have experimented with early on in this phase?
It seems like same old sex tank kind of play.
Sure.
Bear always said in their picks and bans that they had trouble because they'd pick characters and then they'd lose and go, okay, so was it the picks? Do we run them again? Do we do something different? I don't know, honestly. I don't know if the variety is a show of God pool or if it's a show of indecisiveness.
I'm kind of in the same boat. I think that, try and find something until it sticks, but then I also feel like they are, trying to make this Soul work. I feel more than anyone, Barracuda has been sticking by Soul for several seasons now, just kind of living on the high of what release Soul was. But yeah, I don't know. I think they're trying to figure out, different puzzle pieces, ways that, they can really prove that she's good. And, she does have good applications. And we've talked before, Soul is incredibly safe. She's one of the safest mages in the game. And she can Hecate abuse and, things of that nature. But I don't know. I just wish that they would kind of move away from that whole idea and maybe kind of go to more of the style that we're seeing other teams do, which is that like heavy crit kind of style hunter.
Or even I see the pen build coming back again, pen attack speed, with all the great buffs to the bow items that have happened. That's a favorite of Panda Cats, I believe.
I'm just really not sold on it. I don't know. Yeah, for the safety that she has, I don't think she has enough output. It's like you survive the 1v1 phases, maybe, in the against the other ADC, and you survive against the jungler, but then you go to put out damage and you what? Your stellar burst hit the tank. It didn't hit anybody else.
Yeah.
That old's not the easiest thing to confirm.
Yeah, she needs a lot of setup and space to really get going in a team fight, and a lot of the time, someone's just going to get on her and force her out before she can really do anything. It's just a bit of an awkward situation a lot of the time.
Sure. All right, pals. Sanguine versus E United. And again, like Obey, I think we see E United have progressed a little bit as a team. They come out looking strong against the Sanguine set. But the Sanguine team fight in the mid game and the late game is just a little too strong. And they were able to take some Fire Giants and some objectives and win both these games fairly, I don't want to say easily, but, comfortably, I would say. One thing I want to note is they let Persephone to hurry win through. Do you think this is something we're going to see teams start doing, is see who's actually got the goods on Persephone?
Now would definitely be the time to do it. You don't want to assume that someone does or doesn't have it, and then they whip it out at Worlds.
Yeah.
If you're gonna figure out if they have it or not, now when there's not much on the line would be the best time.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, information's always really important, and also right now when there's so many, really top tier things that you really don't want, a lot of teams to get, then you sort of sometimes you're sort of forced into, allowing things through. So teams experiment with letting Persephone through. So if you've got to let one through, then sometimes, you decide on, Persephone.
Sure.
Such odd bands, though. Like Sanguine took out the Serket, they took out Hercules, and they took out Aphrodite. They get the Hercules for inbound, Serket maybe as well for inbound. Does Scream does have a really nasty Serket.
Wait, this is E United, so no inbound.
Oh yeah, shoot! I always get these two confused. These two teams are the ones I always get them confused. So on E United, we've got, let's see here,
Snoopy is the support on E United.
Yeah, Snoopy. Okay.
Yeah, and I think Snoopy's been playing a fair bit of Hercules, so that band does make a little bit of sense.
Yeah, but for them to go and say Hercules to Ymir, I mean, okay, I've
yeah, he definitely had a rough time.
Just. I hate Ymir. Please stop picking Ymir. It's so bad. I told
you, he comes into the meta out of seemingly nowhere. Every 2 years, he cycles through. He's gone, and then we remember. Oh yeah, Wall.
Yeah, I mean, there's merit to the thought process behind the pick. He's got a lot of lane pressure, and lane pressure is, pretty decently valued right now. So, and he did just get buffed with the wall thing, which did make playing him feel less clunky, I guess.
Sure.
More responsive. So, I mean, it's not like it's not like it's a completely bad pick, but sometimes the fucking 2-move speed character waddling around just isn't the play.
You just get trashed on. I don't think between the SPL and the SEC, I don't think we've seen a Ymir win.
Sure.
I'm almost certain, at least this year.
Oh, Ymir?
Well, I think PBM won on Ymir once.
Yeah, PBM won on his.
Did he?
Yeah.
Was it this year?
It was in phase 1.
Yeah, it was this year.
Okay.
Right after the buff.
I gotta bring up the Sun Wukong jungle that Scream played in both games here. What is the thought process between this Sun Wukong jungle? Is this some classic sledge abuse, or is there something more going on here?
I mean, you can sledge abuse on a regular assassin. I don't know why you
true.
bring out the Wukong,
Sure.
right?
No thoughts?
I mean,
I'm mostly trying to understand.
Yeah,
why are they so keen on warriors? Tell me.
Yeah, I mean, Scream does Scream things, and sometimes he gets it in his head that some things are really good.
Sure.
I mean, after watching the games, there's some merit to it, but I just feel assassins do so much more.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't hate Wukong as a solo pick. I think it's fine. But as a jungle pick, it just, like you said, assassins just do more.
I feel like we've seen some other teams pick up the Wukong. What comes to mind is Sanford Soccer, too, has played it. I don't know if he's won on it, but it seems like...
I believe you did.
Seems like people like it,
I think it was phase 1.
I mean, that's a little something he's been workshopping since way back in last year. So
sure.
Like, you can always get Sam on here to talk about the merits of Wukong jungle. But
I should have asked him about that last week.
Yeah, I mean, it's at the end of the day, it's not the worst pick in the world. It can still do jungler type things.
Yeah.
It's just there's probably better picks.
Sure.
It's definitely if you're looking for something safe and that can start a fight, then that's where you look.
Yeah.
It would also help if Snoopy didn't die 4 times in about 10 minutes.
Yeah, that is true.
It's okay. There's catch-up mechanics. It's fine. one throw mid-game.
That's what they're there for.
Last thing I wanted to mention about this game is that Netrioid got Olorun in both games. Is this sort of the next rung on the Mage ADC ladder after the Freya gets banned out? I think it was banned out in both of the games. The first ban for United, both times.
Yeah, it was.
Mm-hmm.
To begin with, he's the hot stuff.
Yeah.
Even when he first came out, that ultimate is just super spicy, super delicious. And then they buffed him for some reason.
Mm-hmm.
They thought he was lacking. I'm surprised it didn't give him movement speed in the 1, 2, or 3. That seems like something Hi-Rez would do. He's a very strong pick. That ultimate's amazing for team fights, for sieging, for anti-sieges, whatever you want.
Seems great in the Titan attack. Like sieging, you say you just drop that and you just take the siege and leave, and you finish it all before the ult is even done. It feels like sometimes.
Exactly, but
it's a lot of denial.
Can be abused.
Yeah. I mean,
they got Olorun and Yamoja as their first 2 picks in game 1, and I honestly, GG from that. I don't want to get stuck in that. You can't run out of the walls. You have eliminated the longest parts of the way to get out of it.
Sure.
And not even to mention, if you throw a Riptide at the end of it, you're stuck in the air for even longer, and you can't run away.
Chuck, you were about to say something?
I was. That's a good point you've raised. Already forgotten it.
That's okay. This is the wonder of editors. So, if it comes back to you.
I mean, the Olorun, I mean, it's never not going to be good, right? It's more like how well the other team picks into it and plays around it that determines how, effective he is. Because if he's allowed to just walk into a team fight, press 4, and then just go to town on someone, then it's never going to be good for the other team.
Sure.
It's all about, how many Xing Chens and Bamanas you can get on top of him before he starts deleting your team.
I think we're at that point in here where the competitive meta is not reliant on any single strong character. That's kind of the sanguine method of playing, but it's mostly, at least for the top teams, comp crafting.
Yeah.
Like, how is it that what characters go well together, go well against the other team, instead of just, all right, this is strong, this is strong, this is strong, let's go.
Right. That's actually something that Bera touched on a little bit in my interview, where he said, in Smite, everything is a lot more team dependent. So, having a team comp that fits very nicely together is something that I think a lot of teams are striving for.
Now, when it comes to those comp crafts with the old Barracuda, I think he tends to go for a micro version of it, of like, oh, these two characters have a fun little synergy and we're going to rely on that the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of where their comps fall apart in a bit.
Sure.
I think that's that tends to be their recipe for it. Whereas the higher teams, it seems like they take the flow of the game early into mid into late, how it goes, instead of just like, hey, here comes the Neathult, get ready.
Okay. Any final thoughts on this United versus Sanguine set before we move on to Ghost versus SSG? All right, I think that means we're ready to move on. I think Ghost vs. SSG was probably the most surprising set of the whole weekend. I surely expected it was going to be a long one, but Game 1 was very quick, and Game 2 was not that much longer, and Ghost are rolling this week, really looking like the best team in the league. Kind of a letdown. What are you guys' thoughts on this set?
Yeah, I'm kind of in the same boat. I thought this was going to be a lot closer, but I mean, just looking at some of the highlight plays from this set, I mean, PBM had some insane plays in the Emoja, like crazy skill on this character. So it's just crazy how much you have to try and take away from Ghost because there's so much that they're good at. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, Ghost definitely came in pretty hot this week. They obviously stomped the hell out of us, and then they did pretty much the same against SSG too. So they were definitely looking pretty hot.
I mean, they only gave up 3 kills in the first game, which I think ended in like 22 minutes.
22 minutes,
which is just, kind of absurd for an SPL match. So, especially like, we're going to talk about power rankings a little bit later, but these two teams, I think, are sort of in the upper strata of SPL teams so far, at least early on in Phase 2. And I think everyone expected it to be
come out the strongest.
Yeah, I think everyone expected it to be sort of a Clash of Titans, but it kind of feels like the snowball was just too much here.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time it's like there's only a few key moments that dictate how a game's going to go.
Sure.
And if at 18 minutes SSG just make a really big whoopsie and then Ghost capitalizes on it, then there's not a lot you can really do beyond making a really sick Phoenix defense, and sometimes that's just not on the cards.
Yeah. Frost?
That was very specific. Is that we're talking Game 2, Cabrakan? Is that what we're talking about there?
I was actually just about to bring up the Cabrakan, so if you want to talk about it, go ahead.
I was more so going for it in general, like just before getting ahead of myself. I really did expect some back and forth, all 3 matches. Going into this, yeah, sure, I'm a Ghost fan, but I also like analyzing it, and I'm thinking here, SSG, if they're going to take a game, they're going to maybe even, if anybody's going to be Ghost, it would be SSG because they come up with some nutty comps.
Sure.
And then they were just completely eviscerated in the first one with a classic Geb, too. We don't see Geb much. We haven't seen him since like Season 6, but then there's always these huge gaps where he's not played, and that was an aggressive Geb, too.
Yep. Getting
in your face. Raffer was the one that played him last time round, and now he's kind of getting a taste of his own medicine here.
Definitely.
But they seem to defy everything that we know, and then go, nah, I'm kidding. We have these aggressive builds. We have these aggressive items. This is a classic. We got Guardian's Blessing, Reinforced Shoes, Thebes, Relic Stagger, Pridwin. That's a standard Guardian build. Everyone was crying that those don't work anymore.
Yeah.
But here they are just making it work. I think that's what the meta is now, is just super team dependent. And there's also less room for error, which is what we saw in that first match.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of astounded by Ghost not making a plan for failure. They just keep on trying to run it and go, all right, we'll make less mistakes. We'll make less mistakes. Last time we threw 25 minutes in, instead of going, we play it safe until 25, they just go, no, we're not going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
We're going to try our best to not make mistakes. Game 2, that was very sloppy. This team gives me, they stressed me out because they love to get that first match going, and then that second one they tend to troll. So it's now a 2-1 scenario. I think SSG could have had that one if it hadn't been for the little Kabrakan play that happened in the mid lane.
Let's talk about the Kabrakan, which is kind of a signature god for Cheerio in the jungle here. Didn't seem to work out too well. You think Kabrakan can play in the jungle at all, Chuck?
I mean, in this draft, it's definitely they definitely picked it because they wanted the double ADC. They just wanted to run back from I don't know, season 4, whenever the hell that was super.
Yeah, the Elevate days, I think.
Super duper meta. Yeah. So I mean that's just a classic run back. But I mean, it's not like Kabrakan definitely can play.
Yeah.
Like an assassin in that style. So it's just, boy oh boy, does he die if anything looks at him. He just needs to look first.
I had a question about maybe playing into Cthulhu, because it looks like Ghost let Cthulhu go to Nika for both of these games and picked up the Nem basically right after they picked up the Cthulhu in basically all the drafts. It sounds like Nem is a counterpick to Cthulhu. Is that sort of the case here? And do we see that play out in the set?
It's not just the Nem, it's the whole comp.
Sure.
It looks like they were planning for it. You've got the Yamoja, okay, cool, but the Nemesis is the obvious one. You've got a very aggressive mid. Habois, Twig, I don't think anyone's going to dash in as much as he is. Then you've got the Kuchulin on Fine Okay with a Rom, because he's either going to go safe into the air, or he did go the attack speed king size build.
Yep.
You need a team that can dive him while also pocketing the hunter, and if you can't pocket the hunter, he's got to be able to play safe for himself. It's like they were planning around Cthulhu.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean, at the high level, like if you're letting through these, super impactful picks like Yamoja, like Cthulhu, like Freya, then at the high level, you're going to be at least trying to have a plan that works against it. Sometimes it doesn't work out because these picks are super highly valued for a reason, but sometimes it does, and I guess that's what we saw with Ghost into this Cthulhu.
Yeah, like Russ said, just every single pick, had something to kind of contribute in that counter. I mean, between the Nemesis and Rom being able to self-peel himself, Yamoja being there, and just, making amazing plays all around. So I think, like Chuck said, when it comes to it, at the highest level, you've really got to have a game plan. And, we see teams like Ghost doing it, but other teams, on the lower end, I guess, are getting used to that style of thinking. And, we see a lot of improvement, too, from the guys at the bottom. So hopefully, they are able to go into future drafts and things like that, with that mentality.
Sure. All right, any final thoughts about this set?
It was just an interesting composition, really. You've got 3 beefy Guardians kind of in the front, and then you've got the Cupid Ool, so that they can have it's like a wall in front of your artillery fire.
Sure.
We saw that in season 6 with I think it was Scream. Yes, United.
Season 6. Scream might have been on Splice.
Phase 1, I want to say.
Okay, yeah.
Oh.
That's what it was when Scream did Hybrid Thor. Because they were going kind of like beefy
picking up like the
line.
sovereignty and things like that.
Yeah.
Yep.
And all that just so that they could keep on keeping the back line just firing into them. But you got that massive dive comp on the other side, which was Ghost at this point, I think they've experimented so much that there's not much that's going to take them by surprise.
Mm-hmm. All right,
if anyone though, final words for that. If anyone's gonna make Ghost bleed, it's got to be Radiance.
Sure. Last set of the week, Sanguine versus PK, and even though it was a 2-0 for Sanguine, I think both of these games were much closer than the final scoreline would indicate. The gold was not too bad, but there are a lot of team fights going either way in this set. What are your first impressions on this game?
Yeah, I mean, compared to our set against Ghost, I was, much happier with this one.
Sure.
Ghost, we came out very flat, I feel. Just making a lot of mistakes that we at least know not to do on a good day.
Yeah.
Sanguine, I mean, we lost, so we still ended up making those mistakes, but at the very least it wasn't, such a blowout like against Ghost.
Yep. Frost or Lermy, any thoughts?
Yeah. Maybe it's a personal one. Is Zap okay? Is it because his elo is probably the lowest it's ever been in ranked? He's not got that aggression in him, but he also seems a bit tepid at times. I wouldn't say he's afraid, but he has stated before that he's had some metas where he's kind of a little scared to step forward.
Yeah, I mean, listen, rank does something to a man when he's grinding for God knows how long every day. But I mean, yeah, it's just like it's not just one thing. It's a whole bunch of different thoughts about how we should play. Just in general, not quite aligning together as well as it should for us right now. So, I mean, always.
Go ahead. Sorry.
No, you go on.
I will say Zap had a pretty good game too, going 8-1 on the Jingwei. Making a lot of plays. It felt like. You guys seem to have an affinity for the base races, and it's not really worked out for you.
Yeah.
I feel like I've seen like 4 base races in 4 weeks so far, or something like that.
Yeah, it's definitely not good for the old heart of
sure.
as a spectator.
Yeah.
It's, hearing the can we end, and as everyone's running it down.
Yeah.
It's definitely a little stressful, but I mean, a lot of it stems from not being able, like, once it gets to the point where we're trying to do those base races and failing, then something's already been messed up beforehand. Like,
sure.
We didn't just get to that point, where all 3 Phoenixes are down and our Titans getting killed by minions, just out of the blue.
You feel like these are like Hail Mary plays that you guys are trying to make to
the thing is in the base race that we had in this set, like, if we don't try to end there, we just straight up lose the game.
Sure,
there's 3 Phoenixes down, they'll all be up. Ideally what we should have done was look for a pick and not try to run down with 3 people into their entire respawn team. So there's definitely coordination issues on that regard, but I mean, at some point you've got to pull the trigger and try and make those plays, because otherwise you'll just passively lose.
Sure. I wanted to mention that last week Cardiac said that Panatome had a great game on the Merc, and he picks the Merc again in this set. Is Merc something? I don't think we've really seen it from other jungles. Is this sort of becoming the Panatome special for at least this season?
I mean, it's a character that you've always got to be at least semi-aware of. There's obviously situations where he's not going to be great, but a lot of the time, some drafts just aren't prepared to deal with the pressure that a Merc gives. With his ult early game, like, if he lands a really good lane gank, then that can really mess up a team's plans. So it's It's definitely a powerful pick at the right time. Just all depends on how you slot it in.
Sure.
Yeah, I think he's liking his globals.
Yeah.
The way he went Merc, then he went Thor.
Yep.
Yeah.
But they, let's see here. For the picks and the bans, they let Jahel go, and they banned her once. Seeing as I'm probably the number one Paul Hell fanboy, is she still viable? At the very least, tell me that. If you're gonna play her, if you're not, I'll live with it. But is she still viable?
I mean, especially in ranked, she's definitely viable. It's just, I mean, we're trying things out. It's a process, and sometimes you pick things. Listen, hell has a listen. Hell has merits. I like personally. I like the hell. It's just sometimes it depends. The meta has definitely shifted from how it was last Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
How extreme though, because last phase, Paul didn't lose a single match on her.
Yeah, I mean, it comes down to just trying things out and trying to find where we're strong, how we're looking to win these games. So it's a process. So we'll see. I don't want to give away too many trade secrets.
Sure. Any final thoughts about Sanguine versus PK before we move on to predictions for next week?
Just good performance all around. I feel like from Sanguine there were a couple of sloppy plays here and there, but I think that they're finally kind of getting back on track from what we saw from them in phase 1.
Ross or Chuck, anything else? Or should we move on?
I
mean, I feel like that's pretty accurate.
Yeah, I think that's it for me. This is I think the teams they're starting to come out of that experimenting phase, and that's more of a let's get down serious for the mid bit. We've already been 3 weeks with these new changes.
Mm.
Something like that. We're like a month in now, so things are going to start to settle. We get to see who likes what, who builds what is actually good, and what was just kind of strong because it was unknown. Like Baba, she came in and then she wasn't played.
All right, let's look ahead towards next week's games. The first game of the week is United versus Obey. So let's just go around the table and give a set prediction. Why don't you say what the game score is going to be as well when we go around? So, Chuck, what do you got for United versus Obey?
I mean, on paper, I'd probably just say United over Obey. I do think United probably has some of the lowest lows at times. But I think in general, I mean, unless Obey step it up, which I feel like every team can step it up right now.
Sure. What you got? 2-1, 2-0? What do you think the game score is going to be?
I'd say 2-0.
2-0 United.
United.
All right. Frost, what about you? United.
This is a very important match because we get to find out who is actually at the bottom, since they are both 0-4 right now.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
All the pressure is in the mid lane right now. So if you're going to compare the threes, I want to give it to Obey just on Wolfie alone, but Scream and Herwin together, that's where it's kind of scary. Now, the duo lane, got Guy J and Snoopy versus Inbound and Wowie. I think we're going to see just a ranked slobber knocker between these. As I expected SSG and Ghost to have that kind of slog match that's going to go all the way for both teams. I think this is going to be the hottest match of the year.
Sure.
Just because somebody's got to prove we're not last place. I think that this is their worlds right now, and everybody's got to be watching this one. I think it's going to go 2-1 all the way. Probably all three matches, 50 minutes.
Okay.
And I think it's going to be, in the end,
nice and long for our EU friends, I guess.
Right. Oh, God. I think it's going to go to Obey.
Okay, Obey 2-1. Lermy, what do you got for this set?
Honestly, I'm kind of looking at it the same way as Frost, where I'm comparing the 3v3s, and generally, I think United has it. I think when Scream is kind of on the money, he's definitely up there, and same thing with Herwin. When those two are on, by golly, they are on and they pop off. So I think in general, they tend to do that and play that way more than I think that Wolfie and Sino would. But they kind of are getting to that point, and they being Obey. Where they are kind of, leaving the experimentation behind, and they're kind of accepting, what's working and what's not. So I think that it's going to be 2-1, except I'm going United.
Okie dokie. Let's move on to the next set of the week, which is going to be Radiance versus RNG. Let's start with you, Lermy, on this one. Who you got in Radiance versus RNG?
Honestly, I just think Radiance is the stronger team. I think Renegades do have certain times where, like, Lasbra gets to pop off and kind of just put the whole squad in the backpack, but, unless Renegades pull something out that Radiance just have no idea what's going on, like, Jake plays something different, he doesn't play Fafnir, he doesn't play Tier or anything like that, but he pulls out something totally different.
The Osiris.
I mean, you know what? You probably could, and, it might work, but I think Radiance is the more consistent team. They've got more tenured players, I feel like, and just their performance alone really does net them the W in my book, 2-0.
Let's go to you, Frost. What do you think about Radiance versus RNG?
I think this is going to be Radiance. This Radiance versus like Phase 1 Radiance, it seems like they've matured. They're actually playing a lot cleaner. They're actually respecting. I didn't see a lot of wonky stuff in the earlier games, even though they were the stronger teams. That's where they normally would be experimenting. Renegades I think they have to meet them eye to eye. If they don't play clean, I think they're just going to get stomped out because Radiance actually has the respect for them now. They seem to be gentlemen of the league instead of just pub stars. I think that's going to go 2-0 Radiance.
2-0 Radiance. All right, finally, Chuck, to you. Radiance versus RNG. Who you got?
Yeah, I'd agree. I'd say 2-0 Radiance. I feel like Radiance, Ghost, and SSG have probably come out the most stable and consistent, I'd say, in this half of the SPL. I feel like everyone else is sort of, hasn't quite found their groove yet. I think Renegades is definitely like, still trying to find that. So I think if, trends continue then and Radiance plays their game, unless, Renegades pull it together, then it should be a 2-0 to Radiance.
Sure. All right, Ghost versus Sanguine. Who you got in this one? Let's start with you, Frost. Ghost versus Sanguine.
Well, they already beat SSG, who I believe to be like Sanguine Prime.
Sure.
So I think this is going to be a 2-0. Unless, God, this is why I can't stand them. Unless they're 2-1 if they're trolling. Yeah, if the first game is way too much of a stomp, then they just absolutely troll. They should have lost that last one, but Cherry was too nice about it. So that's a 2-0 to Ghost, 2-1 if they're trolling.
Sure. Let's go to you, Chuck. Ghost versus Sanguine.
I'd probably say 2-1 Ghost. I think, I think Ghost is definitely on the uptick right now. Sanguine have been looking shakier than some of the Split 1 performances, so I think it's definitely... Sanguine definitely has the potential to take the set, and so I'd say a pretty reasonable 2-1.
Sure. Lermy, what about you? Ghost versus Sanguine. Who you got?
As much as I love Sanguine, they're all my boys. I love them, but Ghost probably is going to get this 2-0. I think that Sanguine definitely have been improving. They, are kind of finding out, after these mid-season changes, what's more of their style. I just don't think that they, are going to be able to take a game. But, there always is that option for there to be a 2-1. But if I'm being serious here, it's going to be a 2-0.
All right, 2-0 to Ghost. Radiance have a doubleheader this week, going up against SSG in their second set. Let's start with you, Chuck. Radiance versus SSG. Who do you got in this one? This is sort of a heavyweight matchup, if you will.
Yeah, this is definitely on paper it should definitely be a close one.
Maybe a game of the week contender with Obey versus United, right?
Yeah, I mean SSG has shown a lot of their quality they've also shown that they can get blown out in 22 minutes. So I think I'd probably say it's definitely a 2-1 on paper at least, but I'd probably go with SSG.
Ooh, 2-1 SSG. Okay, Lermy, what about you? Radiance versus SSG?
I agree, 2-1. I think these guys are definitely going to be a little more even matched than, what we saw SSG and Ghost being. But I think it's going to be Radiance coming up top. I mean, we said this before, Radiance have cleaned up a lot. I think that they are certainly giving a lot more respect to their opponents now. And, the Space Station definitely play a little bit different than, I guess, that they're going up against with other contenders. But I think that, the way that they play very solid Smite, and they kind of just do their own thing and then run with it. So I think it's going to be 2-1 in their favor.
All right, 2-1 to Radiance for Lermy. What about you, Frost? Radiance versus SSG.
Well, you say this could be the match of the week. I think this is going to be incredibly slow. I think both of them are just going to tiptoe in front of each other.
Some classic European Smite.
Yeah, I think they're both going to come out with 2 comps that are kind of mutually exclusive. I don't think they'll actually pay the respect of like, there's something specific you want, something specific I want. We'll try to counter each other. No, I think it's going to be a slow burn, and I think Vote's going to crack under the pressure for SSG. I think it's going to be I'm going to just tell you right now, if anybody gets reckless on that team, it's usually him. Just something about him. The man gets antsy. I think it's going to be a pretty interesting match, but in the end, I'm going to do a 2-0 Radiance.
2-0 Radiance. All right. Chuck, you're the only one who's got SSG winning this set. So,
I mean, it could be listen, it's probably going to come down to a coin toss at 45 minutes.
Sure.
Who fucks up the fire giant the most? Let's be real. So.
All right, another couple teams with doubleheaders this week. We have RNG, the Renegades, versus Obey in the 5th match of the week. Let's start with you, Lermy. Who you got for Renegades versus United?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think it's a United, but honestly, I think Renegades has been a little more consistent than United. I think, Snoopy is still struggling a little in his transition to the support role, so this will kind of be, his proving week. Is he able to overcome it here up against the Renegades? But I don't know. I think when we see gameplay from RNG, I just feel like they generally do a little bit better. I could see this going 2-1, but I'm giving it 2-0 Renegades.
Okay, 2-0 Renegades for Lermy. What about you, Frost? Renegades versus United.
That's an easy one. You got Barra, you got Jake going against Snoopy and Guy J. If Snoop was ADC, I could maybe give it to United at least one game, but no. Like that old matchup, I think Snoopy has Barra's number, but as support, that's going to be a 2-0, and it's just going to be because of duo lanes.
Sure. Chuck, what about you? Renegades versus United? Who you got?
Yeah, I mean, I think United's still going through a lot of teething issues with the Snoopy and Guy J switch around, so I think I don't really see a world where United win.
Mm-hmm.
I think Renegades probably pretty comfortably 2-0.
All right. Let's start with Frost on the last set of this upcoming weekend with PK versus Obey, who is also doing a doubleheader, which is why I got confused. PK versus Obey. Who do you think's going to win, Frost?
Yeah, that's just that's a Knights 2-0. I think if we're going just team for team, they're a lot cleaner than Obey is in general.
Sure.
All the other ones I go off of some kind of crazy nutty synergies with some players or some picks into the other, but I think this one's just going to go good old fashioned team play. It's going to be Knights 2-0.
Chuck, I'm sure you're pulling for your PK boys. Is it a 2-0 for that?
Yeah, I mean, right now I think we're definitely going through our own issues, but I feel like we're pretty consistent against these sorts of teams that are also going through issues. I think we did pretty handily against United. I feel like United and Obey are pretty similar, so I'd expect a pretty similar result.
2-0?
2-0, yeah.
All right. Larry, to you?
I'm in the same boat. I think 2-0. Obey is going through issues, as Chuck mentioned, so I think that they will probably not have a cleanup by this point. I think that this could definitely be a place where they could prove themselves, but I think that in general, Knights is the more tenured team. They've got just generally better players. It's a 2-0 for them.
Sure. Kind of seems to me like the Knights versus Renegades matchup is actually going to be a pretty important one for sort of determining some of the, middle of the pack for this phase. Is that sort of how you guys feel as well?
That's why I've had these teams. This is like, if you'd asked me at the start of this season what my rankings are, this is exactly where I would have put them all. I would have put Ghost at the very top. Radiance, SSG, kind of, they could take it one way or the other. Sanguine, pure middle of it. They, to me, are like the epitome of what you need to be in the SPL. I think they absolutely belong there, and that's just strong smite there. I expected Knights to be with them, though, or if not slightly above them. So I think a Knights versus Renegades match, that's going to kind of show, all right, where's the issues here?
Sure.
And then 7 and 8, it's nothing personal. It's just all the other teams have had more tenure, more time together. It's difficult to grow in a competitive league with new players.
That's a good segue, Frost. I wanted to ask about power rankings. Chuck, what is your sort of power rankings? Do they fall basically in line with what Frost has laid out there?
I mean, yeah. Right now, I'd say, Ghost. Ghost is probably number one, at least judging off, their recent performance. I'd say SSG probably would have been, the other team you'd consider for number one, but obviously those two teams just matched up last week, so it's pretty. I don't think you could say anyone other than Ghost would be one. I'd say it's pretty tight between SSG and Radiance. I don't think you could really make a meaningful distinction between second and third there.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's very much just on the day. I'd agree with Frost about Sanguine being where they are. I feel they're pretty consistent. They've definitely slipped a bit from how strong they were coming out the gate this year, but I think they're still super consistent. I feel Renegades and us, I feel, are probably the teams, and Sanguine too, I guess, that have the most potential to punch upwards against these teams.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like, obviously I'm a little bit biased, but
I mean, hey, you're a world champion, so you should definitely feel like you can punch upwards.
Exactly. But there's flashes. I mean, just watching, my team. There's flashes of brilliance and potential, and there's definitely points where you can say this team could easily take it if we just ironed out these issues. Like there's for every one or two good plays early, at least right now, there's something else that just one big moment late game where some team fight messes up or someone gets picked, and that's sort of similar for Renegades. I feel if these issues just get ironed out, focus down, and stop happening, and just mistakes in general. If mistakes just stop, just calm down a little.
I think that's every coach's dream, right?
All the
mistakes stop.
Yeah, I love to.
Bam for he just goes on there. Just stop making mistakes. Just stop.
I run through the same three freaking PowerPoint dot points every session. Just group up. Play a soundboard. But yeah, I mean, I'd say Renegades and us are probably pretty closely tied right now. I mean, I think a more interesting thing would be where teams would eventually end up.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like right now, I'd say it's very easy to just say Renegades and us are probably, what are we up to, 5th and 6th? And then I think, I personally, I think Obey right now is a pretty comfortable 8th. Not that far behind United, but there's still a decent gap there, I think. I mean, granted, we still have to see more of Snoopy and Guy J and how they slot into the United roster, but I feel like they too have a fair bit of potential, so I feel like that's probably how it shakes out.
Yeah, there should be 2 good games for them to showcase the Guy J transition coming up this week. Lermy, what about you? Where do you see the league stacking up here?
I'm in a very similar boat here as the other guys. I think Ghost is definitely your number 1. Radiant Space Station could hit that 2 and 3 spot. I think Sanguine definitely solid at 4. But I think Knights have more potential than Renegades to grow out in general. And if this was Phase 1, I would say United would be up there as well. But, unfortunately, they had to lose Genetics due to some visa issues. So at this point, honestly, I might even put them under Obey just because I feel like Obey has been growing at such a faster rate than they have. And, they've got a lot to prove this week. If they're able to get the games and things like that, then by all means, my opinion could change. But I don't know. At this point, I have a little more faith in Obey in the long term than United. Mm-hmm. But I think where they're at right now is pretty accurate.
Sure. So let's just run through it. I think looks like 1 is Ghost unanimously, and then 2, 3 is maybe split between Radiance and SSG, and then Sanguine is definitively 4. It feels like on all of your lists, and then PK Renegades is the 5, 6. Some people feel a little more strongly about PK, and the 7, 8 is United Obey. I think you and Frost. I think 2 people had United above Obey. I think Chuck and Frost both had a United above Obey. So I think everyone is sort of incongruity, so to speak.
And this is for now, right? If we're talking,
just for now. Yeah, right now, after 3 weeks of games, where is everyone?
Yeah.
And we'll keep coming back to this, week after week. So that's basically all the topics I have. You guys have any questions for El Chuckles, who has graciously decided to join us? Anything specifically for him, or anything that you would want to hear his opinion on?
Yeah,
why does Zap keep getting soloed?
Save that question for the Steven Zappas interview, okay?
Sometimes he just wants to scrap.
He does. He really does.
And by sometimes, I mean all the time.
Oh no, because there's like 3 degrees of ADC. There's the get a kill. There's the don't die, and then the obvious die. And he tries to go for that +1, ends up being a -1 when he could have just been a 0. At least someone's doing it. It makes it exciting to watch, I guess.
Exciting's one word I'd use.
Maybe a little bit more anxious. Excited.
Oh, that's a much better word.
I guess my question is, if you can say, is there one pick that you guys have experimented with either recently or in the past that, you feel is kind of strong or is fun or whatever, but you just haven't been able to transition to like pro league games or things of that nature?
Boy, that's a good question. I mean, there's a few things. I feel like I would love to see Baba Yaga get played. Hey. I feel like after a buff she has. I mean, I don't think she's OP or anything, but I feel like she has potential. I don't think there's a chance in hell any team picks her, but it would be neat to see when 7 mages get banned out or something crazy happens.
Yeah, I guess this is just kind of an open question, but Tsukiyomi got released during this patch. So how do you guys feel about it? At least, we haven't seen a whole lot. He's been out for not even a day, but what's your opinion on his kit?
Yeah, way too early opinions on Tsukiyomi.
I feel he probably dies very quickly, but also his ult kills you and everything nearby very easily. So who can tell?
Frost, how have your explorations with Tsukiyomi been so far? Or are you saving them for your video?
He's gonna be an ADC or a mid laner on top of being a jungler. No. Yes. No, is like he's a duelist. This is something about him. Just the old school kind of, if you can deal with the wave, your safety comes from just, if the jungler comes, I kill them. If the ADC goes on me, I kill them. Like, I think he's gonna end up seeing some play in either the ADC or the mid role. He's just
anytime in ADC or mid. How's that been going for you?
No, I've not tried him there. It's just like Right, I go into casuals just to get the mechanics down. Then I'm going to go into conquest, see how it goes. But man, the way he takes his fights is just insane. And Hi-Rez already has an issue with characters that don't have too much mobility. They find a way to give them the mobility while also, how are you going to deal with getting caught out? Oh, yeah, I just murder it. So I'll murder whatever comes to me.
Yeah,
because he feels so strong right now, especially with the like his one. It's a 25% movement speed steal.
Yeah,
so it's slowing you, increasing yours. Like it's a 50% gap there.
I mean, it's even more impactful than just 50% given DR. Like the increase that it gives to you is super impactful over just like a 50% slow would be.
Look, he just feels so good to play, and I think he's got a nice kit that would keep any ADC off of him, enough for him to sustain himself in the duo lane, show up to fights, and just wreck. Unless you've got, I guess, like a Ganesh that you're spinning through in the ultimate.
We're gonna have to hope that Zap doesn't watch the extended cut of this podcast.
It's fine. I don't think he's played many assassin hunters or like assassin ADCs. He's more of a Chuck kind of guy.
I remember. Listen, I remember one unfortunate SPL game last year where he whipped out the Thor. It was an unfortunate series of events.
Wait, was this right after the Thor changes happened? Maybe.
I think it was our last SPL set of the year before placements,
okay.
Sure. I mean, obviously we were trying things out, but boy, it was.
Hey, I mean, I've seen
a rough one.
I've seen the Neja ADC in the past do wonders for Zap, and we see him play Morgan all the time, so it's not like assassins are completely out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah, but he's a Chuck kind of guy, Chuck ADC kind of guy. He's always wanted that to be a thing.
Oh my gosh.
Anything else, or?
He's cool. I love him. He's been so much fun to play. I've been literally playing him since 9 in the morning.
He's got scaling true damage. What is that?
It's pretty crazy.
He's a 5 plus 40% of your power, and you can just spam it over and over. I don't know. I think he's a lot of fun. He's way more fun than the other immobile quote unquote characters. You got your AMCs, you got your Scotty, you got your Artemis. So they play that odd keep away kind of game, but I think he's got the means to get in on you. He could be a solo laner. I've not considered him as
the ultimate multi-role specialist god.
He's so ambiguous right now.
I'm sure
I
Neil
think
will try to find a way to play him in support, right?
Right? Where's that Hachi support?
Yeah, where's the Hachi support at, Chuck?
We've had a long discussion about that, and he's learned. I mean, we'll be whipping it out next week. Tune in.
All right, do you guys have any other questions for Chuck here, or should I do the outro and we can get out of here?
How do you think it's changed now that Sam's gone? Especially in the matches like Ghost versus PK, it just seems like he's got the number.
Yeah, I mean, Sam is a really good player, obviously. I think I think Fred is basically just a lateral shift. I feel like they both have the same potential, the same skill set and skill ceiling. It's just what lines up in the moment. Obviously, Ghost has come together during the year really well, and we're still looking to get there. But I mean, we freaking lost all of our games last year, and look how that happened. So I'm not too concerned, but I'm definitely happy for the success that Sam's seen.
But do you think you say it's a lateral change, skill set and all that? Do you think they have the same god pools?
I mean, in the jungle, it's pretty. I mean, there can't be too much, difference unless you're Scream whipping out all sorts of crazy things. But I mean, there's definitely differences, and that's obviously something we've been working to adjust towards. And obviously playing with him is still different from playing with Sam. But I mean, I don't think there's anything that's that Sam could play that Fred absolutely can't, or vice versa. So.
Anything else?
Do they clash for picks then though? I don't know, because it's very interesting to me seeing certain like jungler matchups, because you said you got Scream who could pull out who knows what. We know Sino, we know what he's going to pull out, and so it makes for this very strange interaction. Whereas say Adapting and Panatom, they both kind of have that Thor and Mercury matchup going. How do you feel about junglers who have similar pools? Does it just become a who gets the it's like season 1, who gets the Thor, as opposed to junglers who are very different? Does it come down to comps or something?
For some picks for sure. I think if there's one pick that two junglers are ridiculously good at, then that's sort of how it ends up playing out. But a lot of the time, it usually ends up just how the team ends up playing around those junglers and the picks that they end up getting. At some point there's not that much of a disparity that you can just definitively say, oh yeah, so and so got like Thor or something, or the game's over. So it's definitely just how the team plays around it in each individual game. Like sometimes someone's just gonna get picked 3 times, and that's the end of the jungler's game. So
sometimes it's the Nike that decides it at MSI.
Yeah.
Last one for me. You mentioned the Hail Marys for the base races. Is it I understand the whole, if we're taking the out, if we don't go for it now, we just lose within the next 10 minutes. So losing now or 10 minutes later is the same thing. Is it a Hail Mary, or is it, I've always felt it to be sort of this team's secondary win condition. Do you play with the intent of a base race sometimes? Like maybe this is primary objective, we play the regular game, but then side objective we can lean to is base race, or is it just a complete, all right, you know what, we just got to go for it?
I mean, in the I feel so sometimes. I mean, you come into I don't think any I don't think any team ever comes into a game and is like, you know what, I feel like 40 minutes from now we're going to run at each other's titans and just roll the dice. I don't think anyone ever loads into a game, says that. I mean, at the most it'd be like, after a fight goes bad, it's like, okay, let's fall back to Phoenixes, let's defend here. And then if that defense goes poorly, or you're too far down to really defend, then it starts getting to that situation where you start looking for these things. Can we get this tower here? Can we split push this Phoenix here? And once you get those Phoenixes, then it's like, oh, we have an in. And then, once it gets to that point, it's like, maybe we can end here. Maybe, because once it gets to that point, you're 10k down and, your Phoenixes are all dead. You don't really have that many options. So you start looking for those sort of things in the moment.
That was fair. I could see that. It was more so in the line of Sanguine in phase 1, as cold as it may seem. It didn't seem to me like they came in with much of a game plan aside from let's play solid, stick together and play as a team and hope for a throw in the late game. And that's, I think, where a lot of their success came from. Now in phase 2, teams are less likely to throw, or they're having to be more on the offensive, and that's where we see some kind of odd plays coming out from the support every now and again.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes things just end up getting forced. I mean, in these base races that we've had recently, obviously none of them have really gone well. So there's execution that you need to work on. But I mean, it's once you get in those situations, it's definitely not ideal. It's
exactly.
not. Yeah, it's more trying to claw back after making previous mistakes.
Well, I'm glad you said it that way because I was thinking one of two things comes from these base races. Either the boys are like, okay, we need to not get in the position to where we have these base races anymore, or they perfect it and we're going to see like some nutty backdooring 23 minutes in because they found the right conditions. Like, all right, we're going to get all the tier ones and then 2 tier twos, 1 Phoenix, or just some odd combination. And then here we go. Now is the time. And that's that for me.
Any questions for me? Because I got one that I forgot about.
Go for it.
I gotta ask about the set mid decision. Was that just a heat of the moment thing for Paul? He says like, man, I love transforming into set. Give me the set mid. Let's run it down.
I mean, yeah, he sure does love transforming into set. I mean, I think he jammed it in a few ranked games and had some fun. So I think he was like, hey, why not whip this out? So it's
do like picks like that, do they peeve you a little bit? Like, I'm sure you come in with like, oh, we have all these picks and bans, we have the strategy, and then Paul's like, yo, I'm playing set mid.
I mean, it doesn't. I mean, it's something that, you know, you like when something super out, you know, out of left field comes out like that, then it's something that you workshop. Like we did play it in scrims a little.
Sure.
So it wasn't something completely out of the blue.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Just, I made you guys a nice dinner and you want McDonald's. Okay.
Yeah, that's exactly.
Thanks for watching the SPL Rundown this week. Be sure to tune in every week, Thursdays at 3 p.m. Eastern on twitch.tv/APAM Productions to find all of our analysts' opinions on last week's games and the games of the future. If you have any guests in the Smite scene that you want to see on our show, be sure to DM me on Twitter at APAM2 or at APAM Productions. Furthermore, if you want to see extended cuts of my interviews with the analysts or with pro players, be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel, which is APAM Productions on YouTube. Thanks a lot for watching. See you guys next week.